Untamed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Platform.
iOS, it's only sport. That's the name of our daily radio show, the only independent sports radio show broadcast every day in New Zealand. It's on the platform live between 1 and 4. If you can't get with it, well, this is the next best thing, which is to listen to the highlights package which we put together for you. On the show today, Greg Murphy, as we reflect on the Taupō V8s, is there a chance that there could be 2 rounds of supercars in New Zealand? And if so, where on earth would number 2 be held? Not you, Wellington. No, sorry. You gave up the street race. You don't like people coming to town spending money, or especially noisy cars going brum brum. I used to race around the Wellington waterfront. It used to be great. Oh, let's have it in Auckland. Oh, no, that's right, because the Auckland City Council just are married to the Wellington City Council. Yeah. Shaun Stevenson on the show today. Most people's popular choice to make the All Blacks last year at fullback or wing. He got one chance against Australia. Prospects of that this year. Plus, his chief side just not firing on all cylinders. They're coming off the bye. Why? What is it about? I thought that last year they would just rock and roll, and here they would go. Lost one game. That was to the Reds. Before they, of course, lost to the Crusaders in the final. You'd expect them to be even better this year. Why haven't they been? Shaun on the show with us. Mark Watson, the ATM podcast, episode 80. And the vexed question about Rob Penney. Crusaders CEO Colin Mansbridge going into bat for him today, saying, just shut up, it's not going to happen. He's our coach. He's going to be our coach this year. He's going to be our coach next year. LBP, let's be positive with Matt Gunn out of Twizel, always on a Tuesday. We begin the show the same way every day. Tablets in hand, gather my vlog. It is time for a sermon. Warriors, is it time to panic or not? Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
The Warriors simply have to beat the Titans on Thursday, Anzac Day, for serious sake. Not for season's sake, for serious sake. What I mean is to continue to be taken seriously, we simply can't lose to the Titans. They're 0-6, they're winless. Now, on paper, this should be a laydown. It should be a 2-point tick. Thank you. Good night. It's the perfect fixture for a team struggling to find form. And that's the truth. Struggling. We are struggling. The last 2 games have been particularly unconvincing. Manly should have won. Don't even start to argue about that. An 8-point lead with 63 seconds left on the clock. They'll still be gutted about it. Then St. George slammed the door shut hard. You've got to go back 3 rounds to the Souths game before you can say that the Warriors did play really well. And let's be honest, that's Souths, who are in absolute shambles at the moment. No, I don't think it's time to panic, far from it. But if the unthinkable does happen this weekend, then I think a rethink of the team's playoff credentials will absolutely be relevant. Because if you can't beat the Titans, then how can you possibly think come finals time that you're going to knock off your Brisbanes, your Melbournes and your Penriths? And that's without even considering the other teams who are right there alongside at the moment. The Sharks, Manly, Dolphins, Raiders. This comp, as well we know, every year only gets more competitive. 17-8 means 9 teams miss out on the playoffs. And yes, if you fall behind, there's always the possibility of doing a Knights last year and getting on a 9-game roll, but you don't want to depend on that. Shaun Johnson's niggly Achilles raises even more questions about who to replace him if he needs resting and rotating. And this, again, comes down to squad depth. Do the Warriors truly have it? Here we are, 7 games in, sitting in 10th spot. 2 weeks ago, after the South result, several Aussie commentators were saying a grand final was fait accompli. Let's calm the farm and cool the jets. The season is 24 long games. Each week is its own cup final. This is why the match against the Titans isn't a must-win, but if the Warriors don't win, then the next game sure is gonna be.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The Platform.
Supercars V8s, Taupō. Used to be Pukekohe, that all shut down, so Tony Quinn took it to Taupō Motorsports Park. He also owns Hampton Downs. 67,000 fans. Can't be wrong. That is the most that turn up for anything in any sport in this country ever is motorsport across a weekend. You don't get more spectators at anything. And they're all in their merchandise and they're all there standing in the rain and they absolutely love the racing. Greg Murphy reflects on the weekend in Taupō. Are we going to get a second series event in Supercars sometime in New Zealand? You like racing in the rain because the real contrast on Saturday and Sunday, wasn't it? Heimgartner running in the rain and the crowd didn't seem to mind it at all. And then you got a dry track on the Sunday, different race entirely.
Yeah, it ended up being a great match. And the race we had on Saturday was epic. Yeah, and it's awesome that the fans stuck around. It was a little bit tough. Luckily, it wasn't too cold. It was just damp and wet. But they were treated to an awesome race. And to top it all out, Andre Heimgartner driving probably the race of his life, really, to get his only second race win in the championship, and the emotion of that was enormous. And man, he'll never ever forget that moment, regardless of how many wins he gets from here. This one will be very special to him.
And then race 2, is that more what we're going to see throughout the season? Do you think those two drivers are going to be the two dominant ones?
They've been very consistent so far. Red Bull are just an absolute exceptional operation, and it did highlight in the dry how good they are at ticking all the boxes. I mean, their overall speed, the car speed, and the engineering of their cars clearly a little bit better than everybody else, and then the two drivers drove them accordingly to maximise it. So there's a slight advantage in a straight street fight in good conditions without a safety car, and their strategy was pretty simple and basic, but it worked. So their longevity on their tyre, the way it looked after the tyre, was a key factor in that, and theirs was just a little bit better than everybody else's. So I don't think it's not going to stay that way all the way through, but I think in a straight street fight situation, if they qualify well, the two of them have a slight advantage right now.
What have you noticed in year 2 of the Gen 3 cars? Has it settled down somewhat? There's always a lot of complaints when anything changes, and there were plenty of those last year, and Shane van Gisbergen saying it was just boring, the racing was boring and things. Is that the same this year? What have you noticed? I
don't think so. I think there's been some settling down with all that. A lot of work was done in the off-season. The prototypes were in America, in the wind tunnels that they have over there that NASCAR use to get all their figures and their parity correct, and it seems to be that it's a little bit closer. Well, it's a lot closer. I didn't hear the word parity being spoken on the weekend at all. So I think there's been some good work done, which has calmed all that down. And for me, I think Gen 3 is working. I understand Shane's sort of conversation about it and his feelings, and he had other reasons for that as well that sort of put him off a fair bit. But we've had some great races. The races at the Australian Grand Prix 4 weeks ago were some of the best sort of dices and battles that we've seen in a while, and it still is throwing up a mixed bag when it comes to qualifying and race results. So that's what we want. We don't want to see complete dominance. Although, saying that, I just told you that Red Bull seem to have a slight advantage, but it's so quick to change with this formula at the moment. So we'll wait and see. It's very early in the season. So far, we've had some great races and a fair number of different winners as well from all through the field. So that's what we need in a championship. But, we'll have to judge it a little bit more later in the season, I think.
Greg Murphy with us on the platform. Look, might be banging this drum on my own, but I think it's actually time that Supercars divorced itself from the F1. I just think it's like playing T20 cricket when I actually want to see a 70-lap race. I mean, the advantage of Supercars is that they do race hell of a lot of laps, and you've got to bring that pit strategy, tyre strategy, fuel strategy. You've got to bring all of that into it because it's as much part of the game, isn't it? Just the 20-lap races leave me cold. I'm sorry, and I just don't think it's a sport that actually needs to hang on it anymore. I think unless they're prepared to say, okay, we'll give you what you need, which is your own pits and everything else. Otherwise, just say, hey, let the F1 be the F1. Everyone knows what the result is anyway, so move on.
Yeah, it's been a interesting cycle with Formula One and Supercars for a long time. I mean, the reason we got our own pit lane at Formula One was by saying, well, we're not coming anymore because we need to get treated better. And now Formula One's gone, we're going to bring our little feeder category single-seater formulas with us, and you guys are going to get pushed out the back. And it's like, we've been through all this before. This is just history repeating itself. How we were treated, we got treated better, we put on a show, we bring in the crowds, we're a big part of that. So, give us what we deserve, and now they've taken it all away again. So there's going to be some interesting discussions around that moving forward, because the F2 and F3 championships that Formula One brought with them again this year for the second time, They don't bring the crowds. The crowds aren't there to see those cars, and they're not a reference for the Australian, New Zealand, Australasian fans at all. They're not interested. So I'm sure there'll be a few metrics floating around and numbers and thoughts and ideas on that. But supercars do need to hold their ground because they do have such a good value in this part of the world, and fans come to watch them at the Grand Prix. So I'm with you. I actually thought the racing was fantastic. The sprint format did work this time round. It was close quarters racing. I really enjoyed it, and that's hard for me to say because I'm pretty picky. They don't need to have the same format everywhere we go, but they've still got to have the right amount of time and be treated with the respect they deserve for the size of what the championship is. So there's a lot to unravel with that side of it.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. I'm with Colin Mansbridge, people. I'm with the CEO of the Crusaders. Let's talk about this as well. More in the Tight Five coming. I'll ask Watto about it. But you bozos, Rob Penney's not going anywhere. It ain't happening and it shouldn't happen. This is such a knee-jerk reaction from people who are addicted to clickbait. They see, hear, read, absorb the news only through social media comments. Not fact, not thoughtful analysis, but via a tweet or an anonymous thread or a TikTok. The Crusaders are an organisation that is the antithesis of such mindlessness. They won't be listening to a word of it. And no, of course they're not happy about where they are this season, results, performance, or anything else. But it's not all Rob Penney's fault. Just like the All Blacks' 14 losses in 3 years weren't all Ian Foster's fault. Oh, hell no, it's got nothing to do with an average bunch of players. No, got nothing to do with that, has it? Truth is, the Crusaders' third and fourth string players aren't that good. New Zealand rugby does not have the depth. And as much as Rehan is trying his best, he's not Richie Mwanga yet. He may be in a couple of years, but right now he's not. And you could do this for every team in the country. Go and find their third or fourth player in that position and see how good they are. I'm not making excuses for the Crusaders, but I just think it is just futile to keep talking about this and keep talking along the lines that Rob Penney is in trouble as coach. He's not. The Crusaders don't operate like that. He was always inheriting a team on the slide, a team that would need retooling and rebuilding. So judge him next year, after he's had a year. If this team still sucks, this Crusaders team, this time next year, then maybe we can have this conversation. But right now, I'm standing right alongside Colin Mansbridge. It's nothing but clickbait. And the only answer to it is to give it the big Tony Quinn. And that is put the middle finger up and say, F off, mate.
Devlin.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
The platform.
Rob Penney, Crusaders coach. Well, it's a slow old news day. I used to call Tuesdays and Wednesdays when I was doing radio sport and hosting that breakfast show injury days. And not a lot of stories around, and so they're all about who's injured, who's not playing for the weekend, all of that kind of stuff. Plus, of course, you got to dredge, don't you? And there's been many comments made by many commentators and broadcasters and journalists alike this week that it's time for Rob Penney to get gone as the Crusaders coach. Well, we don't do that in New Zealand. We don't sack coaches. We're a bit too nice all about that. Although the Rugby Union did their very best with Ian Foster, didn't they? So, Mark Watson, the ATM podcast, the future of Rob Penney. What do you do if you're the Crusaders CEO, apart from keep Rob Penney, because we know that is what they're going to do?
Look, I think that we've just got to a level now where I think it's intolerant to continue with sort of this level of mediocrity. I mean, sport's a cutthroat world, isn't it? I mean, victory and fate, in my opinion, are the only currencies that matter. You know, we've seen dismal performances from the Crusaders and the Highlanders, and I think it is time we address the elephant in the room, and that is those catastrophic coaching appointments of Clark Dermody and Rob Penney. Maybe being a bit tough on Clark Dermody. Maybe he doesn't quite have the cattle that perhaps Rob Penney and the Crusaders have. But let's be blunt. I mean, you can't sort of bench an entire or sack an entire 23 players. So where does blame fall? Well, you've only got to look no further than the sidelines. I mean, you look at the players that were great players last year, but under Penney have become very lackluster. I'm Cullen Grace, Tom Christie, Dominic Gardner. I mean, very much stars of yesteryear, reduced to sort of more shadow of himself under this current reign. Now, if Super Rugby and rugby claim to be the epitome of professionalism, then it's time we show some backbone, Martin, and hold these coaches accountable. I mean, could you imagine that Dermody and Penney prowling the sideline of NFL, English Premier League, or even the NRL? They would have been shown the door long ago. Yet here they stand, staining the integrity of, well, the Crusaders brand, arguably at a greater level. just our beloved sport. You know, we sort of pride ourselves, don't we, on the highest standards, especially when it comes to, say, the All Blacks. And yet, you know, no offence, but Ian Foster should have been sacked after the Irish series. But no, we didn't have the balls or tenacity to make that call, and we ultimately ended up losing 14 tests under his reign, and we didn't win a Rugby World Cup. You know, I remember the debates we once had over Mains, Hart, Henry, Mitchell, and most recently Ian Foster. Look, I mean, I think part of the problem too with the Crusaders is their insular approach to coaching appointments. You know, this whole Crusaders brotherhood mentality, and I think it once did sort of bear fruit, but I think it's an outdated model, and I think it's strangling the life out of that particular team. I mean, ask the question: did Rob Penney get this role based on merit, or merely because he wore the right colours? What if Clark Laidlaw had have put up his hand? Would he have stood a chance if he had dared throw in his hat into the ring for that job? I mean, look what he's doing with the Hurricanes. And so, yeah, I think we've got to be a lot tougher. I think we've got to be a lot more ruthless, mate. You know, I just think both teams would go better at the moment under better coaches.
All right, how's this for a thought? And this was from a very highly placed international coach I was speaking to recently. He said to me, just think about this. He said, okay, so you've got Jason Holland and Leon McDonald, who had been plucked out of the Hurricanes and the Blues, respectively, to join Razor as, you know, his assistant coaches. Well, were those guys that good at their jobs? Because the new guys that have come in, Vern Cotter and Clark Laidlaw, virgin coaches at that level in Super Rugby, have suddenly elevated both of those teams to a level that neither of those guys had previously been able to do. So how are we meant to assess that, Mark? All of a sudden, were Jason Holland and Leon McDonald average kind of coaches, or are Vern Cotter and Clark Laidlaw super coaches, or is it somewhere in the middle?
Oh, no, I think we've got super coaches. I think Vern Cotter is a class act. I think you've got to see what he did with Scotland and the platform that he set for Gregor Townsend and those guys. And I look at, you know, I look at what we've seen with Laidlaw here, and I think he's exceptional. You know, clearly a very, very smart guy, Scottish, clearly from Scotland, did great things with the New Zealand Sevens team. And I genuinely wonder whether we would actually have the balls and the gumption in the future if, you know, he continues doing what he's doing, Laidlaw, builds a bit of a dynasty down there at the Hurricanes, whether or not we'd ever consider him to potentially be an All Black head coach, knowing the fact that he's not actually a true blue, so born and bred New Zealander. And look, I do. I mean, you know, we can make all the excuses for Penny about how all the backroom staff were sort of robbed from the Crusaders because of their success and are now all been elevated into the All Black sort of environment. But, I mean, what did Clark Laidlaw have when he came into the Hurricanes situation in terms of his backroom staff? What exactly does Vern Cotter have in his backroom staff? So I think we can pick our choosing arguments to try and defend Penny and try and defend the Crusaders. But look, I think good coaches are good coaches. We see it in the English Premier League all the time. And yeah, stop making excuses and let's just see who else is out there. I mean, look, you know, Crusaders, man, I mean, their brand is at a micro level is not dissimilar to the All Black level. It's about performance, it's about precision, it's about no compromise. And the longer this goes on, it's amazing how quickly you can undo, you know, a decade or 2 decades of hard work in terms of undoing a brand overnight.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
The Tight Five.
5 separate sporting topics, roughly a minute or so on each. And when the bell goes, Lachlan, yeah, thank you. You can drive a truck through that. We move on to the next topic. Arsenal-Chelsea tomorrow. This is going to say a lot about where the title race will end up. Give me your thoughts on that, Loch. Shaun Stevenson, fullback or winger is his best position? You tell me. NBA today, the 76ers have just blown this game big time bad. That's a 2-0 lead to the Knicks. They'll be absolutely kicking themselves because you want to try and split away from home. We've got the Nuggets versus the Lakers starting shortly. How vital is this Titans game for the Warriors? Is it a must-win right now? Or let's say the unthinkable happens and the Titans win this game. What then for the Warriors? Cam George in the Vegas comments. Losing seasons for the Highlanders and Crusaders. Is it as simple as sacking those coaches? And yeah, Colin Mansbridge says it's childish of commentators to call for Rob Penney to be sacked. Let's start there, Lachlan. Because as I said just before the news, I'm with Colin Mansbridge on this. Rob Penney is not going anywhere. He will be in that job for this year and I dare say most of next year. He's got a 2-year deal. We don't do this in New Zealand for a start. If we did, we would have sacked Yitka, the Football Ferns coach, 2 years ago before the World Cup for their appalling record. We don't like doing it, and we don't like it. It's just not the Kiwi way to do it. So that's one aspect to it. The other is simply that what we expect from the Crusaders, I'm not so sure that those who run the Crusaders had the same expectations at the start of this year. Of course, they don't want to be bottom of the table. And they'll be very disappointed in recent weeks because there's been a couple of games that you would have thought that they would win, especially away. The Force is one of them. New South Wales as well. There is a mathematical possibility that they could still make the 8, but it's been a terrible season for them. At the very best, they could get a 500 split 7-7. But again, and I said the same thing about Ian Foster for the last couple of years. Look, I just find it hard to assess Penney as a coach until he gets his full complement of players on deck, and then are those players good enough? Because at the moment, we haven't seen it. They've had one game where they beat the Chiefs, and they did look the goods. Apart from that...
Well, they look at the goods at the start of the year against the Chiefs as well, in that first game, I thought.
Remember that their scrum came to play in the second half, and they monstered the Chiefs. Yeah, so... It's just too easy, cheap, and TikTok, Instagram bollocks to say, sack the coach, sack the coach, sack the coach. Come up with a solution if you're going to say sack the coach.
Well, that's one thing I've always thought when it's come to usually in football or American sports, round ball football that is, when coaches are sacked quite a lot, I've always questioned, well, if you're going to sack someone, you've got to appoint someone who's as good, if not better, for the job. And who's, in this case, better for the job than Rob Penney? I'm not saying Rob Penney's a spectacular coach. I truthfully don't know a huge amount about him apart from his time with Canterbury, which was pretty damn good when he was there.
Well, he wasn't successful at New South Wales. They got rid of him out of there.
Then again, that's a franchise that hasn't been successful since they won the Super Rugby title 10 years ago. So, but who would get the job?
Do you sack Clark Dermody?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, we've got him on the program tomorrow. Here's just another thought that was given to us by a former All Black coach last week. The Hurricanes and the Blues have gone, I'm going to ask Watto about this as well, have gone great guns, okay? The Hurricanes and the Blues are playing better than they have for years, Lachlan. So what is that? Is that a reflection on the fact that they've both got brand new coaches who've never coached Super Rugby before? Or is that a reflection on the fact that perhaps the other two coaches who are now All Black assistant coaches weren't that good at all? Jason Holland and Leon McDonald.
Oh, either way.
I mean, do you want to start drawing that? Do you want to start bridging that, do we?
Well...
So Jason Holland was no good because the Hurricanes are a lot better now.
A couple of things.
I mean, come on, people.
Yeah. I don't think that's entirely true. Then again, coaches can make much better assistants than head coaches. Maybe Vern Cotter and Clark Ladle are better head coaches.
Well, Vern Cotter has done something to the Blues. We know that.
Well, he's toughened them up. This is what I was saying when he got the job. I said you've gone from Liam McDonald, who obviously is a different kind of coach, a different kind of personality, more modernised. You're going from him to Vern Cotter, who strikes me as a lot more old school. Now, the thing about Vern Cotter is that he coached the Fijian national side, and when they came here for 2 matches, and both matches in 2021, Fiji bettered us in all of the physical forward elements of the game. Scrum, line out, breakdown. The numbers might say that we were the better team, but it felt like watching it that they were getting the better of us in many of those parts of the game. Now, I actually think Jason Ryan might have been an assistant coach with him there at the time, I think. But the point is that he's a coach that clearly is been able to influence the physical side of his teams positively. So when he took the Blues job, I thought, well, logically, that should happen here. Because look, the Blues 4-pack, we like to have a bit of a crack at them every now and then, that they sort of shy away from the big contest, particularly against the Crusaders the last couple of years. But they do have talented forwards that just need someone to turn up and get the best out of them. Dalton Papali'i, Hoskins Sadutu, Akira Ioane, who's the most infuriating player because he's so talented but seems to have a work ethic issue. Those are just to name a few. So this is a Blues team that, we're sort of going off topic here, but Blues team that had the potential to turn into that. So anyway, Vern Cotter and Clark Ladle could just be better head coaches.
We talked about this. Okay, so should Penney be sacked?
Ultimately,
look, I mean, God, we've got to the bar, got 3 jugs, and everyone's fallen asleep.
Well, getting good ball on. I've learned from you. No, you shouldn't be sacked. I really like this about New Zealand sports. People will say, just quickly, people will say international sports do it better because they'll sack a guy who's... The issue with American sports and very much European club football is coaches don't get long enough. Like, you guys didn't give David Moyes long enough. I don't think you gave Mourinho long enough. I think you sided with the players over him. And you didn't give Louis van Gaal long enough. And Liverpool probably won't give our next coach long enough because he won't win us anything for the first 2 years.
All right. Arsenal versus Chelsea tomorrow. What's going to happen? Chelsea got no Cole Porter. Apparently he's injured. They lost.
Palmer.
Cole Palmer. Cole Porter used to play. What did he play? Trumpet, I think it was. They've lost Man City in the Cup semi. They got a chance of maybe qualifying for the Europa Cup.
Is it at Stamford Bridge? No Cole Palmer.
Arsenal at home, mate.
Oh no, Arsenal winning.
Arsenal winning that game.
Winning.
Arsenal winning that.
I think
game.
if Cole Palmer was playing, Lakers out to an early lead here.
Cam George Vegas comments: the Warriors aren't going to Vegas next year. Let's just put that in right now, right?
Well, he hasn't requested it by the sounds of it. He's requested that they go in a couple of years' time. That's what he said yesterday. Right?
It doesn't seem to me like the NRL is looking at the Warriors for next year. Cam said maybe the year after, people. NBA today. Yeah, has there been anything surprising so far in the first couple of games of any playoff series for you?
There's been many. I can give you about 3 or 4. Quickly, I mean, it was the first time since 2013. Get this, 11 years. First time in 11 years that, LeBron should have passed that. Well, he got the layup, but he should have passed that. The first time in 11 years that all home teams won the first game of their series in the first round. So ever since then, so from 2014 right up until last year, at least one road team won game 1 in the first round. I thought the Mavericks were horrendously disappointing yesterday. I thought defensively the numbers have shown that they've been a lot better the last sort of the second half of the season. I think they're 17-3 in 20 games before playing the Clippers yesterday. So they were really disappointing. They just fell asleep. They didn't get going for a couple of quarters. It was really disappointing. And the Clippers played really well without Kawhi Leonard. He's out injured. And yeah, James Harden, who looked like vintage James Harden. Russell Westbrook had some big plays. Ivica Zubac is going to have a huge series because lengthwise, the Clippers are just so much bigger and taller than, well, at least with him as playing at centre, bigger and taller than the Clippers, than the Mavericks, excuse me. I thought the Timberwolves were very impressive in game 1. I thought Anthony Edwards was good. I thought Phoenix were a little bit disappointing, but I think they'll just beat them by a better team on the day. But other than that, not a lot learnt. I think that all of these first round series are going to tighten up, though. Pretty much every game won, apart from yesterday's Pelicans Thunder game, all of them were won pretty comfortably by the home team. I think the series, all of them, will tighten up, absolutely. There's no way that those margins continue.
Finally, expecting any surprises at all in the Warriors team that's going to be named to play the Titans tonight?
Cam. Andrew Webster, I was about to say Cam George. He doesn't strike me as someone who's going to hit the panic button and decide, oh heck, okay, let's go put Chance, at second row and then Roger in at halfback. He's not going to do anything silly. He's going to stick with the team that he thinks is best. And I actually heard this on a Channel 9 NRL. It's not the footy show, but it's like a Channel 9 NRL show they do with Joey Johns and Brad Fittler. And Joey Johns said this, and it's a good point. He said, the worst thing you can do to a team, if results aren't quite there or things aren't looking so good, the worst thing you can do is continually change your spine. So the Warriors need to have their 1, 6, 7 and 9 and stick to it. Even if there's injuries, make sure that everyone knows what the main spine is and stick to it, and only make changes where you have to with injuries.
The Chiefs last year only lost one round-robin game in Super Rugby, and that was to the Reds in New Plymouth. Well, with the Crusaders losing a lot of players and brand new coach and all of that, and them struggling to regain their mantle, you would have thought that the Chiefs just would have marched on this year, but they haven't, have they? They've kind of been misfiring, just haven't found their best form. They've lost 3 games already. They lost to the Reds. They got wiped by the Hurricanes a couple of weeks ago. Well, they're the only team that's lost to the Crusaders all year. Shaun Stevenson on to explain. And also, what's his best position? Where does he want to play? If he gets an All Black call-up again, is it fullback or is it wing? Here's Shaun. Shaun, how's the team travelling, mate? I mean, what are we, 7, 8 games in now? How do you think the team has been travelling?
Yeah, I guess, we try not to compare us to last year, but, obviously we had a hot start to last year and we had a couple of losses this year, but I think the bye week came at the right time. We came back in and I guess we had a good chat in terms of where we stand and how we want the back half of the season to look like. So, to be honest, the stats say that we'll in our attack stats and defence stats were top 5 of the competition. So, I guess it's just putting out those 80-minute performances, and we've nullified a couple of areas that we can do better at in this back half of the season that we're going to put more focus into, and hopefully that can shine through and be in the finals come back in the season.
As silly as it might sound saying this to you, but you've lost games against the Crusaders, the Hurricanes, and also the Reds, mate. You're better than all of those teams. So how does that happen?
Yeah, I guess well, we put it down to all three teams probably came out a lot more physical than us, and that's where we lost the games. If we're going to be quite honest with ourselves. So, yeah, I guess, well, you know, this week, especially the Waratahs are a good side, and we saw what they could do to the Crusaders and what they did well with when the physicality battle. So, yeah, I guess those three games we did lose was purely just down to physicality, and yeah, I guess it's not winning those first up contacts.
Is that something that you can detect during the week, or is it something that is different attitudinal wise than last year? Is it that easy to put the finger on?
Yeah, I think it's just the attitude and the mindset thing, you know. Just coming in, we've got all the game plans. The coaches give us all the right game plans and what we need to, you know, the attacking plans, defense plans that we need. It's just, yeah, just the mindset that, you know, when we get out in the field, we executed, and I think it's been a bit of a story of our season. It's playing for the full 80, you know. I guess the Hurricanes, they got out to a good lead, and I guess the passage between the 20th minute mark and the 50th minute mark, we came back, and for what we had, we ended up getting a bit of a lead on them, and yeah, that last 30, they probably just piled up the points and took it to another level. So, yeah, I guess it's just a mindset and attitude thing, you know, playing for the full 80 and, yeah, just being on every week. So it's a hard competition.
Shaun Stevenson is with us. Yeah, because that, again, it just comes back to, you know, all of us who sit there and look from the outside and think that you're a much better team know that you're a much better team. And I remember that game last year against the Hurricanes in Wellington. That last 30 minutes absolutely dominated, physically dominated, and swept them off the park. So that hasn't been happening.
Yeah, I mean, we showed in glimpses, 100%, and like you said, we've got full belief in our camp that we can still go the whole way, you know. So yeah, it's just fine tuning a couple of things and keeping everyone honest, and I guess having a hard look each week in the mirror, and when we put on that jersey and walk across the white chalk, that we're switched in and we're ready to go.
What do you do in the downtime in your week off? Do you actually get a whole week where you are away from it, or is it more that you actually get together and you actually have a good talk about all of this stuff, and then you think, right, let's actually redouble our efforts?
No, we've got the whole week off, so I think it was good. You know, we obviously got the last bye of all the teams in terms of in the season. So some boys have been, you know, played every game since we've been on a Japan pre-season tour. So no, it was just a full week off just to recharge the batteries, and the energy's been good since everyone's been come off the bye last week. So no, everyone's in good spirits.
Shaun, you've got a run of games now. You've got the Waratahs away. They've only beaten the Crusaders. They haven't won any other games. Then you get the Force at home. You get MP before the Rebels. So you've got 4 games in a row that on paper everyone would sit there and think you should win those games. Do you look at this as a group of matches, or do you just look at it still week by week?
No, week by week. Because I've already touched on it in terms of each team will, I guess, process a different I guess, style of rugby. So, you know, Waratahs only beat the Crusaders twice, like you said, but the results have been very close, and they probably should have won a couple of those games, like the Highlanders and the Blues and whatnot. So, yeah, our focus has been, you know, solely on the Waratahs this weekend. Yeah, I mean, look at the next 4 weeks. You know, we have to, you know, be out for 4 games, but yeah, we're focusing solely on the Waratahs this weekend, each week, week by week.
We need to talk.
Your favourite game, Lachlan?
We need to talk.
Which is called what?
What is more chance of happening?
More chance of happening. I'll present 2 scenarios.
Yes.
You tell me out of the 2 what is more chance of happening. The Crusaders finish last, or the Chiefs win it all. What is more chance of happening?
Crusaders finish last.
Then the Chiefs win it all.
Yeah.
What is? I don't.
More chance.
Well, okay, and that means that the Crusaders have really only got to perhaps win 1 game, and you'd kind of expect, even so, that they might win 1 or 2. What is it about the Chiefs? Why are we all sleeping on the Chiefs this year? We're not rating the Chiefs, are we?
Well, they're not jumping out of our screens the way they did last year. I think last year, as much as people, I remember pre-season last year, many people thought the Chiefs would be in the final with the Crusaders, or be there or thereabouts of making the final. but no one expected them to bolt away the way they did. Whereas this year, they are the favourites.
And we all expected them to do the same as they did last year.
And they're not. But there's another team who's doing it, and there's another team who are close behind that other team. So it's the Hurricanes who are bolting away, and it's the Blues who are right there with them. The Chiefs have lost a couple of games. Apart from the Brumbies one, I think they've actually been pretty damn underwhelming for the most part. Maybe they're timing their run, who knows?
What is more chance of happening, Lachlan? The Crusaders finish last, or Rob Penney loses his job by season's end? What is more chance of happening?
Crusaders finish last. They won't sack Rob Penney.
No, I just don't think. And also, the fact that...
If it was this time next year and they were struggling for wins again, then, yeah, sure, I could
would
buy into that.
Would they sack him, though, or would they move him sideways?
No, they'd mutually part ways, and they would do so
He'd pull out
at
the
the end of the
compassionate
season.
clause is what he'd do, wouldn't he?
No, they'd wait to the end of the season. They'd keep him there till the end, but they'd let him know probably with 4 or 5 games left when they'd made the decision that we're going to part ways at the end of the year. They'll do what the 49ers and Jim Harbaugh did back in 2014.
What is more chance of happening? The Crusaders finish last, or any team other than the Blues or the Hurricanes makes the final of Super Rugby?
Sorry, repeat that. I was too busy watching Big AD nail a shot in the paint with Jokic all over him. Jokic, excuse me.
36-34 I've got here. Lakers.
Well, just watch. Davis is about to back in and get himself a nice 2-pointer in the paint.
How is mine not up to yours?
Because I've got League Pass. League Pass is just a little bit ahead.
What is more chance of happening? The Crusaders finish last, or any team other than the Blues or the Hurricanes make the final of Super Rugby?
Oh, more chance that any team other than the Blues and Hurricanes make the final, I think. I think
set search for
no,
the final.
I think it's wide open between 3 teams. I think one of it'll be the Chiefs, Hurricanes, or Blues.
So you don't rate you don't rate any of the others at the moment. It's
who else is there? Don't bring the Rebels into it. Don't bring the Brumbies into it. Look, the Brumbies have been just absolutely thwacked and dicked by 2 of those 3 teams that I just brought up.
They have. So there's only 3 teams in the race: the Hurricanes, the Blues, and the Chiefs. What is more chance of happening? The Crusaders finished dead set last.
Good chance, because they've lost to the Force, and they've lost. Who's the other team in the bottom group? The Highlanders.
Yep.
Oh, have they played?
Yeah, they've beaten them, yeah.
No, they haven't played.
Highlanders have won 2 games.
No, Highlanders and Crusaders haven't played.
Haven't they?
No. If they did, the Highlanders won.
Yeah, good point.
And I don't think they did.
Yeah, good point. Okay, right.
Remember
so
that.
they've still got to meet, all right.
Why didn't they play in like round 1? That's probably the best
well, they're
derby in New
saving
Zealand.
the worst till last, aren't they? That's quite
Well,
clearly
they didn't know
what
that'd be
they're
the 2 worst, to be fair.
What more chance of happening, though? The Crusaders finished last in Super Rugby, or the 8 that are there at the moment
In the top 8?
end the season as the top 8.
Well, let me get the table out.
Hurricanes, Blues, Brumbies, Rebels, Chiefs, Reds, Drua, MP. Maybe not in that order.
No, MP. Well, I was going to say MP don't make it, but then that means one of the Waratahs, Highlanders, Force, or Crusaders do. And all 4 of those teams are rubbish right now.
Well, okay, so the only 2 teams only 2 games the Waratahs
Look at that
have won.
points difference for Moana, though.
Yeah, minus
That
100.
is
Minus 140 ain't good. And they're not going to make that up.
Well, it's over 100 points worse than the Waratahs.
Okay, see, they're only a point ahead of the problem that they've had is they haven't had the bonus points. Like the Waratahs have got 4 bonus points. The team that's got the most bonus points, ridiculous as it is the Reds. I mean, you would have expected the way that the Hurricanes and Blues are playing that they would have absolutely spanked
Well, it means the Reds are either putting
close losses.
either
Close
winning.
losses.
Well, I was going to say they're either winning by 3 tries or more, or they're not losing.
Is this actually good? And I asked Watto this. Is this actually good? I asked Jeff Parks this after 3 o'clock. Is this good for the competition? You've got 4 New Zealand teams, 2 Aussie.
Absolutely. Well, it should be, surely. Having 2 New Zealand teams miss out.
Well, this is what I think the expansion was meant to be, whether it was this year or whether it was going to take time, is that the Drua and MP
I was
make
going
the
to say
8.
that's the key there, that both the 2 new teams are in the 8.
Yeah. I mean, you want the... Well, do you want? I want the Drua to get top 4. You want them to have a home playoff game, a home quarterfinal, don't you?
Yeah.
Because if they won that... Or actually, they're not necessarily would get a home semi-final because it's where they rank. But you want them... I want a team to go to Fiji and have to play a quarterfinal at 2 o'clock at Lautoka, don't you?
Absolutely. Well, because, I mean, yeah, okay, well, hold on. Yes and no. Yes, because it'd be just an absolute scene. It'd be spectacular to
What a
behold
game to be
TV.
on that would be.
Yeah. And to be at the game. Why I wouldn't like it is because I think it actually gives a little bit of an unfair advantage to the Enduro because of the conditions.
Well, that's called home advantage, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's similar to almost when you've got the Denver Broncos playing outdoors in Denver.
Well, same as Green Bay playing in the snow at playoff time, mate.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay, the frozen tundra.
Have an indoor stadium.
No.
Why not?
No, because this is the part of it that you've got to go there and beat them under their conditions.
I got to say.
Oh, you whine it. This is exactly what you millennials do. You can't get, can you?
I'm not whining. I'm just saying that. I mean, like, geez,
Mate,
imagine if
Athletic Park in the cold wind southerly. Go and beat Wellington on that
No,
day.
that's different. I'm not talking about New Zealand cold. I'm talking about humid, hot, nasty
Good.
Lautoka
Good.
on a Saturday afternoon.
Good. Go
if
there
you're
and-
the Highlanders, you have to go out there. Geez, mate, you're already down 14 points. I'm not talking about the atmosphere. I'm not talking about the heat. I'm talking about something beyond the heat.
Give the fat kid a prize. Everyone's got to get a prize. Round about this
You
time.
can't call me fat. That's rude.
No.
It's offensive.
It's bullying and it's body
Yeah,
shaming.
HR complaint
these
coming.
days, isn't
Sean,
it?
are you listening? HR complaint coming. Marty
We
called me
used to,
fat.
we used to in the office. We used to say, somebody come in who
Marty
ate all
called me fat.
Who ate all the pies? It was a badge of honour when you
Hey,
walked
did
in.
you,
with
did you see that episode of Maths this year where Jack, the bad boy with his man bun, walked in on to a pool area? There's a couple of people sitting around. He goes, "Oh, I see the whales have turned up." There's a couple. There's a couple of girls, and there was a guy who.
I'm not laughing at that. I'm not, mate. I'm not.
Well,
laughing.
but
I'm not enjoying that.
The best part is this is what society is these days. One of the guys who was lying down there then went to camera and complained about how I've dealt with body image issues my whole life.
For God's
He made
sake,
the whole
he burst
thing
into
of,
tears, did
well,
he?
he
And
made the whole thing about himself.
Yeah, of course
he made the
he
whole
did.
thing about himself.
LBP, let's be positive. Matt Gunn. Doggies won. Highlanders didn't. Crusaders didn't. What's it like being a South Island rugby fan at the moment? Warriors didn't either. VAR, lots to talk about. How much positivity can Matt wring from the weekend sporting sponge? Let's start with your Doggies, mate, because again, that's back-to-back. That's a brilliant win. That's a great performance. That's a team that is on the rise. The Blue Arrow looking up.
Oh, we look fantastic. We've got great attack at the moment, and our defence seems to be holding up. So I'll tell you what, I was absolutely delighted to see the Bulldogs get that victory over the Knights. The Knights are gone. Pong is now out with a long-term injury, and they're hopeless without him. And the Doggies, as long as we can stay fit, I'd tell you what, we'll worry a few teams. I mean, we're literally in the 8 at the moment. Well, we're a couple of points out of the 8. We're 12th with a green arrow on the way up. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and you've got to buy this weekend, so there's another 2 points. So tick that. So hopefully you get all your players back in a couple of weeks, and that's West Tigers. Well, I mean, it's a winnable game.
Oh, it's got to be a winnable game. I mean, they've all got to be winnable games for us now. We have to think that way. Our attack out wide, and with the Fox back on song, should have got 2 tries, 2 aerial tries on the weekend, but his foot scraped the touchline for his second attempt. But I'll tell you what, the Bulldogs fans are loving it. The Bulldogs look very pumped up. And we've got attack on 3 or 4 fronts, and we look pretty good. So we just got to hang on. We just got to keep ticking away. The Warriors, on the other hand, over the weekend, they dropped down to 10th, just outside the 8, just a point outside the 8. But they looked lacklustre.
Yeah.
It wasn't one of those games. Like the week before, they came back and saved the game, sort of thing, picked themselves up. But it didn't look even likely over the weekend. And now I'm reading this morning, Shaun Johnson's training and resting an Achilles injury. I'll tell you what, that'd be absolute killer for the Warriors. So you got to keep your fingers crossed he's going to be okay.
Yeah, Titans becomes a must-win, doesn't it? And it's a must-win, I think, because for the team to be taken seriously, they can't lose this game. That's it. I mean, it's not season-over disaster if they lose, but to be taken seriously, I think teams will look at them completely different if they drop this game.
Oh, they have to win this game. I mean, even over the last season or so, I've been hoping that the Bulldogs would be able to beat the Titans. It's one of those teams. We've been hopeless. We've been nearly wooden spooners, and I still look at the Titans as a game that you should win. So, look, the Warriors, they will beat the Titans this weekend. I don't think there's any doubt about that. It's just how hard they come back. I'd like to see them be able to put the points on and really ram it home, and then, well, they're there or thereabouts. But the Dragons' performance was a bit of an eye-opener because they just didn't look like they had anything.
Let's be positive, though. You Doggies, I mean, listen to you, mate. You've won 3 games, and all of a sudden you've won the title.
Oh, mate, listen, we're climbing. You know what I mean? You know where we were last year. The big thing
and the year before, and the year before, and the year before that, and for the last 20 years.
Before that.
That's right.
Yeah. So to see us playing this well, and we've lost a couple of games this season already. We shouldn't have. The one against Melbourne who are second on the table. We should have won that game. So, look, the bottom line is it's nice to be able to watch a team who can score points. And what you've got to remember is that game against the Knights on the weekend last year, they put like 108 points or something on us in 2 games.
See, I'm just sitting here, mate. I'm just what I'm remembering. What I'm remembering is I'm remembering a guy that walks into his lounge, sighs, turns the television on, and says, "I know what's going to happen here. It's just another abject performance. I'll watch it for 20 minutes out of duty, and then I'll mope at halftime out of the house back to the shed, and I'll listen on the radio for the next 40 minutes because I can't bear to watch it." Who am I talking about?
I know. The bottom line is not this year.
No,
I'm
sorry.
sitting there for every minute of the game. We're playing to the very last moment. Look, it's just nice to watch a team that can do something. No one wants to be the Knights, the Rabbits, or a Titans fan at the moment, do they? Well, I'd throw the Eels in, but they've got 3 wins as well. Look, it's just good to be involved in the competition and feel like, righto, we could look likely coming towards the finals. I think we're going to make it. I think we'll be top 8.
Let's be positive then. When South Island rugby is strong, New Zealand... Oh, okay. So, yeah. How can we be positive about the Highlanders and the Crusaders? Let's look at the Highlanders are even more disappointing to me than the Crusaders because I don't really care about the Crusaders. They've won it enough times. They can have a suck season. But I really believed in the Highlanders this year.
Our points differential is -87. It's worse than the Crusaders, who have only got 1 win on the board. There's nothing positive to say about either squad. I mean, you can rejoice in the Crusaders being last, and I'd have to ask some of the Canterbury crowd, Martin, when was the last time that you were sitting at the bottom of the table? It looks like the whole thing's been reversed.
Yeah.
I mean, Drua and Moana Pacifica sitting above the Waratahs, the Highlanders, the Force, and the Crusaders. Come on. There's nothing positive to say about South Island rugby at the moment. And a couple of my mates I'd seen the other day, they were dressed up, father and son, in all the Highlanders gear and, ready to celebrate together, and celebrate they did not. Again.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.